Hey everyone. So we are going to get started here with some biomolecules or some biological molecules. To start on this video, there is, just so you know, in the slides right here. You can click on this video. It'll bring you to crash course. I think it's always a good idea to start with one of those crash course videos because it's exactly what it's titled. It's a crash course on what we're doing. So it's a nice little touches upon all subjects that we're going to do, and then here we can go into more detail at a slower pace. So, what is a biomolecule? Um, Most important thing you could do with any vocab term is break it down into what is it? What does it sound like? So, biomolecule is something that is bio, right? Alive, and molecule, right? It is a type of molecule, right? So, these are the molecules that make up living things, right? So, you can distinguish things between organic and non organic, alive and not living, based on these hydrocarbons, which are molecules that have hydrogens and carbons in them. So that said, before we even talk about those molecules, we have to understand macromolecules to begin with. So another vocab term, a macromolecule is a macro, large molecule. And these are made up of polymers. So let's break down those terms as well. A polymer is any large molecule that consists of similar subunits. A subunit is an annoying word because, like, whenever you hear subunit, like, what is it? And that's exactly it. It depends, right? And we're going to talk about a whole bunch of subunits, also known as monomers, in the next few videos. So, a polymer is a chain of monomers. Monomers are subunits. So, it depends what we're looking at. We're going to talk about it in a second, but for example, glucose could be a monomer of a starch, right? A whole bunch of glucoses, a whole bunch of monomers make polymers. And this is an example right here of that. This slide is cool for two reasons. Number one, you can see one subunit, the monomer here, and you can see the chain of these same things over and over again, which make a polymer. If you don't believe me, bam. So with that said, a monomer is one single subunit. Another thing to keep in mind is a subunit, again, is something you have to define. In this case, this subunit is two white circles and a black circle situated in this way. Okay, it doesn't mean just it's one circle. So a lot of people would assume that this is three monomer because there's three circles. That's not the case, right? The subunit or the monomer is the grouping of whatever it is we're talking about. Example, glucose. Glucose is a great monomer, and it's made of many things. In fact, it's made of 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens. Like, I struggle with that, right? So that's the idea. So monomers are single, polymers are chains. There are 4 macromolecules that we're going to talk about in this class. 3 of them right now, 1 of them later on. And the one thing they have in common is they're going to go through these things called polymerization reactions. So polymerization is the process in which these macromolecules are formed. So in other words, how do you connect this monomer with another monomer? It's a polymerization process. It's in the name. Polymerization. Polymerization. Right? So they're going to go through those processes in order to do that. These chemical reactions are going to link these together so that we can create these polymers. What are the polymers we're going to talk about? They're right here. Many of you have heard of these. These are various molecules found in food. That's usually where we see these from. So carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins are going to be the 3 biomolecules that we're going to talk about in detail. Nucleotides, nucleic acids are as well, but these are going to make DNA, RNA, and ATP. So these are things that we're going to cover when we get into DNA. So with that said, one last thing, we'll talk about this in detail. These polymerization reactions are condensation reactions, which we'll talk about in the next slide. So in this, we talked about what is a monomer, what is a polymer, right? Or a subunit, or a monomer is a subunit, and then polymer. And then we also talked about the 4 biomolecules that make us who we are. So we're going to look at those in more detail in the next couple of videos.